you want to go ahead and get started on the next item?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I should have introduced Randy. I think you learned that he wears a lot of different hats now, so.
What I ran for state senate in 2010 against Howard Walker. He was a term limited out state representative from the 104th, which is Traverse City. And he was going to be our next state senator automatically. Nobody was even primary challenging him. And I had been a former truck driver and I drove around the country, and DOT regulations require that we have to stay in our bunk for 10 hours a night. So I got a laptop and internet card, and I couldn't sleep for 10 hours. I'm 50-some years old, so I had to study and learn things. And I found that basically states like Texas, Florida, Tennessee, Wyoming, they operated different than Michigan. And I couldn't put my hand on it, I couldn't figure out exactly what it was. So I started doing research and finding out different things. And there was a couple of reoccurring themes that kept coming up. Right to work states, part-time legislature, no state income tax, and really low regulations. Very limited government getting involved telling you what to do. And so I contacted Senator Walker and asked him if he would adopt some of these ideas that I had researched and felt Michigan needed to do. And he laughed at me. He said, there's no way we're going to take on the unions. That is so divisive. We will never become a right-to-work state. I said, okay. What about part-time legislature? Texas meets every other year. There's only 4 states in the country that still have a full-time legislature. Everybody else, 46 states, is part-time. Well, you don't understand, Randy. How many times have we heard politicians tell us we don't understand how it works? You know, I have to do this, and I have to do that, and I have to do this. And I said, okay, fine. I said, what about no income tax, no state income tax, like Florida or Tennessee or Texas? Well, that don't work because, you know, and he gave me all kinds of excuses. Finally, I said, you know what? I'm going to have to run against you. And he went, you, a former truck driver? And I go, yeah. And he goes, good luck. And he hung up on me. So I knew I was going to lose because he had been the state rep down in Traverse City and had name recognition to kill me. So I really didn't even want people to donate because I knew he was going to beat me and I didn't want to take their money. But people would give me, you know, $100 checks, and I raised $4,000, and he had to spend $137,912 to beat me in the primary. I got 40% of the vote. And you know, the night of the elections where they have those on the bottom, too close to call, too close to call. It went all the way until 11:05. It was too close to call. But then Traverse City reported in, and he beat me by 6,000 votes in Traverse City, and he won it. And he called me and he said, Randy, I called him, you know, to the conciliatory, you know, congratulation call. And he goes, Randy, I just thank God that you didn't raise 40,000. Because had you raised 40, you'd be the state senator tonight. And I said, that's okay, Howard. We're still going to become a right-to-work state. We're still going to do part-time legislature because I'm going to stay involved in these things. A lot of us got involved. We did right-to-work. Part-time legislature is the next step. And the reason I learned this is I went down and talked to Dr. Gary Wolfram from Hillsdale College. You've heard of Hillsdale? He was John Engler's financial advisor under Governor Engler. And he was very smart on economics, and he studied all the Austrian and the Keynesian, and he knows all the economic theories of what needs to be done to fix Michigan. We are the second most regulated state in the country. The #1 state regulated is California. They have 38,000 laws on the books. They're full-time. Michigan, second most regulated with 20,000 laws on the books. We are a full-time legislature. They, right now, get paid $72,000 a year as their base salary, plus $1,000 a month expense account, brings them up to $84,000, and they get roughly about $16,000 in 80% of their Blue Cross Blue Shield that we pay for. So their total compensation package right now is $100,000. I'm going to play a video for you that gives you a little historical background. It's only about 4 minutes, 5 minutes long. And then I'm going to show you another video of a female Speaker of the House in Utah. Surprising thing that happens in these part-time states, they find that they get a lot more women to run for office, and they find that a lot of them are former business owners, retired school teachers, executives, retired executive women. It's a very interesting dichotomy, and you'll see her speaking as the Speaker of the House for Utah. So I'll try to get these to play. I'll check the volume, make sure this is working right. And I'll stop it if it doesn't sound good.
Turn on this one. Yeah.
Okay, I'll hit this. That's that buffering thing you were saying, right?
Exactly.
And my drive won't play on your computer, so. Oh, come on, technology. It's frozen. Let's try this. Well, that's Norm Camarade. He's the chairman who started this effort. And I will escape out of here. No, it's completely frozen. Okay. Yeah. There we go. Let's just play it in the small screen. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
There you go.
Turn your sound on.
Okay, this isn't.
I wonder if this is what it's muted it like headphones.
Oh, there we go.
I remember Michigan was great. Said Michigan at one time was one of the largest economies. Since I have been alive, I have witnessed Michigan slowly lose its economic dominance every year until more recently it became one of the states with the greatest population leaving its borders into the Midwest. When you look at the facts, unlike many of the surrounding states, Michigan's economy has witnessed a mass exodus of jobs, tax dollars, and businesses every time a recession came. Our legislature and previous governors would tell us, wait until the next year. We will implement a new program, or even soon we'll be blown away.
In 5 years, you're going to be blown away.
It's constitutional fact that when Michigan first started as a state, its founders set our legislator's schedule to serve only as a part-time legislature and not a full-time legislature. This is because they knew that when more government is introduced, bad governance is its result. In fact, it was Thomas Jefferson who even stated, when a reading of history convinces me that most bad government results from too much government. In 1963, Michigan's legislature became a full-time legislature by amendment of its constitution, and at that time it adopted its State Officers Compensation Commission, or the SOCC. At that time, prior to the adoption of that committee, Michigan's legislators, as a part-time legislator, was making $3,000 a year. Shortly after that, in 1967, the state records show that our legislature's salaries more than tripled. The problem is today our legislators only serve
Don't get too many mics up
$28,000 salary. In fact, our legislators continue to increase. Right into our most recent recession, while their very own citizens of Michigan, who they claim to represent, were taking job cuts, salary cuts, losses of family homes and farms, and other economic hardships. This is why George Bernard Shaw once wrote, "A government with a policy to rob Peter to pay Paul, and to be assured of his support for all." History has now shown that our legislature cannot solve our economic problems. Former President Ronald Reagan even acknowledged this when he said, "Government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem." Michigan's government and its institution needs an enema. This is why today I'm proposing to correct history and upright our great ship of state and return it to its roots by giving you the opportunity to vote for a part-time legislature. Our legislature has already chosen not to make this choice as recent as within the last 2 years, because they have an economic interest in its defeat, which is obviously their income and benefits. But to do this, we will need to gather over 360,000 signatures, and we will need the help of every citizen to do this. The end result will be the restoration of our former Constitution in all of its glory, and once and for all, taking the word career out of Michigan's politics and replacing pure Michigan with pure public service. But to do this, we must want this as a feasible and not as party members. Join with me and let's together realize this dream and bring back Michigan to its former greatness. We, the people of Michigan, are its rulers, and together we can once again see our prosperity and financial gain realized. But we must do this together, because our legislature refuses to do it for us. The reason is we have everything to gain. They have everything. Thank you for your time.
So that's the video there from Norm. He's a business owner down in the Hudsonville area, and under Jennifer Granholm, he does what's called environmental impact studies and brownfield redevelopment. Whenever gas tanks would leak, he'd go in and clean up the leak and things like that. He'd been doing it for like 30 some years, ever since high school. Jennifer Granholm passed a law that the legislature passed and she signed that required him to start paying a $25,000 a year licensing fee if he wanted to continue to do his work. And it made Norm a little mad, along with a few other businesses that specialize in that type of business. Well, he actually relocated his business address to Ohio, just across the border, so he wouldn't have to, pay the $25,000 fee. And through his state representative, they actually fought to repeal that law and to eliminate that licensing fee. It upset him so bad that not only, like I said, we're the second most regulated state in the country, but they right now in full-time status, last year they were only in session for 92 days. That's how many days they have off. They operate right now on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. They take off Friday and Monday and the weekends. We already have a part-time legislature, but they're getting full-time pay and benefits. What our proposal does And we shipped 250 sheets here because there's 10 signatures per page. And there's 250 sheets that Tuscola County has to produce for us. We've broke it down by every 83 counties to know exactly, based on population, how many signatures we need to get. And Tuscola has to fix that box right there. We have to get 250 sheets filled out times 10 signatures is 2,500. Wayne County, 60,000 signatures. Macomb, 30,000. My little county of Antrim, 1,300. See, you're double of us, you're 2,500. So what we need tonight is Lisa's volunteered so far to get these shipped to her home, but we need somebody who's willing to simply be the county coordinator for us to take this box home. And we have a website right here. I'll pull
The
up.
website is on the agendas too, so that you can go and watch these videos.
Yes.
And hopefully your internet will work better than what we had here
Right.
tonight.
The website, folks, is on the petition sheet, but it's parttimemi.com. And if you go there, the videos like Lisa just said are there. We have frequently asked questions. We actually have the amendment, the petition, and the language there for you to read. Because what we're doing is we're actually amending Michigan's Constitution. We're eliminating what they did in 1963. We're restoring it back to the way it was before 1963. And all that information is right here on the website. One thing you'll see is, all these green counties? Those are the counties that we currently already have organized, where somebody has volunteered to take the box home and to be the contact person. 55 of the 83. So we're only down to 28 counties to go. And if you look over here, you see here in the thumb area, where I'm having problems finding somebody in Sanilac, Tuscola, and Lapeer. I haven't been able to hook up with the Lapeer Tea Party yet, but I'm hoping to get a hold of
Maybe
Bill.
at the powerhouse Saturday.
Saturday is what we're hoping is a lot of folks. If you click on this volunteer page, hopefully it'll load up for us.
That's what I did. They'll send you a box of 250 petitions.
Right. Because we knew Lisa, it was a real go-getter, and she's helped us so much in the past. But you'll see every county in the state of Michigan. And so here is Tuscola. And if you click on that, for every one of these counties, these are clickable maps, it says that we do need somebody to volunteer to take over for Lisa. She got them shipped to her, but we do need somebody. I'd like to become a county coordinator. You just check that, and then you put in your name, your address, and information. And then your name would show up when other folks that want to help with this come to this county map. Your name and information would show up for people to contact you in your county. So that, for example, see, I'll show you where my county is Antrim. I'm way up here. And I actually live just below Charlevoix. I live right up in that area. But if you click on my county, Randy Bishop, and my phone number. So anybody in Antrim will click on Antrim. They just call me, and I'll be able to get the petition sheets from me. So that's what we're hoping tonight, is to answer all your questions, fully inform you as to what this does. The language itself is on the back of the petition sheet. And it shows you exactly how we are amending the Michigan State Constitution, specifically what section numbers are being deleted and changed.
I could pass it to you all for them to take a look at.
Absolutely.
I'm familiar
Yep.
with the petition.
What it does is it reduces their total compensation to $35,000, and it locks them in to 60 consecutive calendar days. The Constitution requires that they be there on the second Wednesday of January, which in 2015 that would be January the 14th, and they would be done on Saturday, March the 15th. If they don't have their work done, and their number one, who knows what their number one constitutional obligation is to do?
No obligation, you could leave it on
State
the table
senators
tonight
and
if
state
it's not
reps,
what
what's
you
their
want.
number one constitutional obligation?
Yeah, budget.
To do the budget. The budget funds our state government. That's all they have to do. Up until 1963, usually, that's all they did do. And once they passed the budget, they looked around and said, okay, do we want to pass anything else? Governor, do you want us to do anything? No? Good, we're going back home. That's when they got paid $3,000 a year. Most of them were farmers. Most of them were pastors, retired people. Even some of the school teachers back in the day were legislators because they got a leave of absence for a week to go to Lansing to pass the budget, and then they'd come back home. So that is the process under which they operated all the way until 1963. Under Governor George Romney, they held the Constitutional Convention, and that's when they passed and became a full-time legislature. Under Governor John Engler, they changed their staffing. Before, in 1963, a secretary would be responsible for 4 state reps. We have 110 in the state of Michigan, based on our districts. So roughly there was about 26, 27 secretaries, because they would each handle 4 state reps. The Senate side, there's 38 state senators, and 1 secretary would handle 2 senators. So there was 19 Senate secretaries and 27 House secretaries. Under John Engler, each legislator got 4 secretaries, each. So we had 440 secretaries in the House and 76 some in the Senate side. Those secretaries weren't just secretaries, they could be also what they call legislative aides, chief of staffs, so they started renaming the titles. Well, as the titles got better, the pay went up. We are limiting their staff back down to 250, and they're freaking out. The people running for office that you know are your candidates right now hate this.
Yes.
I've already spoken to one of them on the phone, and him and I were going pretty heated there for about an hour and a half. Yeah, they're gonna have to maybe answer their own phone. If they don't want to, they can let it go to voicemail. and
They'll
hear
have to
what
set
you're-
their, they'll have to keep track of their own calendar and schedule, won't they?
A little bit.
Yeah, they won't have a scheduler. They
They'll
have
still
to-
have one staff person that should be their chief of staff, legislative aide, constituent. But the idea of this, folks, how it works in the other 46 states, is they're back in district 300 days a year. They're not in the capital, in Lansing. Now, one thing you need to know is if you were to go down to Lansing and park on Michigan Avenue and put your backside up to the sandstone building of our Capitol, and you did a 360 looking outward away from the Capitol building, 92% of all those real estate buildings you see are leased out to lobbyists.
Whoa.
92 out of 100 of those office buildings are rented out to lobbyists. Lobbyists, having full access to these guys, get their bills and a check. They walk across the street and says, hey, Senator, can I buy you lunch? This is how it's been operating. When this goes through, because we are going to collect the signatures, we are going to do this, they will be back in district 300 days a year. So your state rep and your state senator might be down at Fritz's diner having lunch or dinner, where we gonna go sit down with them and invite ourselves to sit and talk to our states. How many of you have talked to your state senator face to face at a restaurant? Okay, you know what, that's a good number compared to some of the counties I've been to. I had one down in Oakland County, and they were like, we never see them. Big county, lots of people. Well, this is all going to change because they'll be getting gas at the local gas station and going to the diner and probably going and buying groceries on a regular basis 300 days out of the year. And as a result, in the other 46 states, they actually get better constituent services because they're back home with us. Instead of us driving to Lansing to talk to them, they're here locally, and we're a lot more accessible to them. Did you have a question, Mary?
Yes. Well, first of all, when does this have to be turned in? May?
Okay, the sheets have instructions on this tab over here, and the way they're folded up is you can actually tape them shut and put a stamp on them and simply drop them in the mail. So what we're asking is you just get your 10 signatures, then you sign the bottom where the circulator is. You date it last. Don't date it first, because all the signatures are not good then. But when you circulate affidavit certification on the bottom, tape it shut and put a stamp on it and mail it in as soon as you can.
What's the due date, sir?
Well, here's the process. We have, you saw in the video, it said 360,000 signatures in 90 days. We expected to have to sue them. We didn't think the Board of Canvassers was going to approve our petition sheet. We thought we were going to have to appeal it to a circuit court judge and have him rule that it was, the format was right, it's Arial font, it's 10 point and all that good stuff. So we expected April, May, and June. And the drop dead date that we have to turn these in is July the 7th. So that's the schedule we're operating on. Now this will put this on the ballot. They will not accept these like the wolf thing, and then they're gonna do it. Randy Richardville, the Senate Majority Leader, has already said over my dead body, he will never allow this to go through. So we know we, the people, have got to do this. We're gonna do a pre-test check June 1st. So if you've got any petition sheets in your possession, June 1st, mail them in. Only if you got 2 signatures, mail it in. Because we're gonna wanna do a count on June 1st to know what we really gotta push for the whole month of June and that first week in July. So that's what we're asking. If you get them mailed, filled out, all 10, please, 10 signatures, just mail them in.
Have you contacted Mike Avery? He's been talking with, oh, well, not about this, it's about the rules.
Yeah.
My other question was,
I'll meet you next, sir. And
how,
John.
how can we promote this by saying that,
How can we promote this by saying something about our taxes will go down, or we'll have more money in the state, or?
Here's what will happen just from the math of the cutting of their salary alone, is we'll save $10 million just in the legislators per year. But when you factor in the staff that we're eliminating in this proposal too, that saves roughly about another $8 million. But more importantly, here's what other 46 states have found. The governors are responsible for the bureaucratic departments because he's the executive of the state. The governor right now is able to twist their arms because they're in session and throughout the whole year, so he's able to constantly work and push them to do more and more laws. Last year, they passed 659 more new laws. Well, the
But
reason...
weren't there like 1,800 bills that they considered?
They looked at
They
1,800.
looked at 1,800 and guessed 600 plus.
659, on top of the 20,000 we already have on the books. I mean, how many of you saw the Appropriations Committee this week are deciding whether we should have blueberries or cherries as our state fruit, and whether Mackinac Island fudge should be the state sweet? 3 Senate bills, and folks, just so you know, every time you see an SB or an HB with a number, the cost to just introduce that bill, give it to LSB, Legislative Services Bureau, for them to capitulate it to code, put it into a blueback, submit it to committee, have all these people come and have the hearings, get it to a floor vote, and then give it to the Senate, have them go through committee, take it to a floor vote, to present to the governor, costs us $500,000 per bill. They spent $1.5 million as to whether we should be cherries, blueberries, or Mackinac Island fudge. Why did we have to be talking about that? That's how crazy this thing, yes ma'am.
What does this do to the candidates that then come forth to, to want to run to these positions, for these positions?
Mhm.
Is there a change in the type of candidate that
Will we
presents?
attract less
I am
quality
so glad you
candidates?
asked me that question, because if I get this video to play, I'm going to show you exactly what they found in Utah. And I'm going to try to do this wireless on my computer, because my speakers are a little louder.
I think you turned down your volume on the,
we'll try this and see how this is Becky.
We don't see it on the screen though.
Oh, that's right. I don't have that software. Okay, here.
Want to try to send it? I can replay on this computer.
This is Becky Lockhart. She's the female Speaker of the House in Utah.
There are great benefits to having a part-time legislature. One of those benefits is that we all have other things that we do for a living. We all have professional lives. I personally am one of those individuals who has a college degree and I have a license. I'm a registered nurse, I have a license, but I don't choose to work. So I'm one of the odd ones that actually doesn't have another job. This is really all that I do other than I'm a mom. So, but most of the members of the legislature are attorneys, they're bankers, they're physicians, they're business people, they own their own businesses, they're farmers, they're ranchers, all of these kinds of this wonderful diversity of viewpoint that is possible when you have a part-time legislature. We all go and do those things most of the year, and then for 6.5 weeks a year, we come to the Capitol and we make law. And one of the advantages that flows from that is that there are members of this body that have to live with and comply with the laws that we pass. And so when we're talking about a farming or a ranching issue, we have a farmer or a rancher who can actually stand up and say, hey, this is what this means for the industry that I make a living at. Same with attorneys, same with people from the banking and credit union industry, same with physicians and healthcare, those kinds of things. They have those perspectives and they are brought to the table. In states where you have a full-time legislature, that's all they do. Most of them aren't allowed to have outside jobs. And so you begin to create a politician class, if you will, that they are professional politicians as opposed to professions other places, and then once a year they come together in order to make laws that we all have to live with. So that's a huge advantage to having a part-time legislature. And one of the things that I've really enjoyed is being part of that process. I'm a nurse, and so I have that kind of knowledge base and that kind of expertise. I've been able to contribute a lot to the healthcare debate, to issues surrounding health insurance. All the healthcare kinds of things are where I really focused my attention when I was first in the legislature, and still have a real soft spot for those kinds of issues.
That was before Obamacare. She had input as to how they did it. What the other 46 states found is, and a couple of your candidates that are running for State House down here, the one gentleman that I got into a heated debate with, he's like, Randy, I can't afford to run for office to get elected for $35,000 a year.
Good.
Exactly.
Don't run.
Don't run. How many of you in your lives right now, based on where you're at, how many of you would want to be a volunteer public servant willing to go to Lansing from January 15th to March 15th, get paid $35,000 a year with no health care, and be accountable to your district? How many of you would do it?
That's all I do now.
Exactly. The reason we came up with that number, Lisa, was the Michigan Labor Statistic Report in October said that the median income in the private sector for Michigan right now was $34,876. We also looked at Florida, and they've been on this model for 22 years. And they just, because of Social Security cost of living adjustment and for inflation, they just went to $35,000 in 60 days. This is modeled exactly after Florida. What happens is January 14th to March 15th, this past Saturday, they would have had to pass a budget. They've not passed the budget yet. So what would happen? In our language, there's a 30-day emergency stayover clause that the governor, with a specific definition as to what he's holding them over for, can hold them over 30 days without pay.
Oh, that's good. So that budget done.
You didn't get your homework done, so you stay after class and you don't get paid for it. Sir, did you have a question?
Yeah, Mr. Bishop, you said that the median income is, I didn't hear you exactly, but it's around $34,000.
34, for single head of household in Michigan, the private sector, not public sector or union, was 34,876 is the
Wow.
report.
I read someplace on the internet, I don't know if it was fact or fiction,
Okay.
that if you know how to work the welfare system, you can do better than that average income.
Yes.
So what's that number?
The last number, we talked about it on a radio show. I think it was about $2,600 a month is what you could get under assistance with food stamps and everything else. So, I'm sorry, you have to do the math.
Question over
Jeff?
there.
Okay, I have a couple of questions on the part-time legislature.
Yeah.
Number one, I know of some other states that do, and I know most of them do, but one that I'm familiar with how it works is New Hampshire. New Hampshire has a part-time legislature that meets in the evenings and weekends and a couple of weeks in the summer, kind of like guard duty. So it's possible to have a consistent, regular full-time job. If we have our legislature meet from the middle of January until March, and you're taking off from work for 3 months of the year, how many normal, everyday, ordinary people are going to be able to get a job that's going to say, well, I'll let you just take off for 3 months a year, and I'll let you back every time? And wouldn't that be kind of
60
more,
days.
okay, whatever it is?
2 months.
Wouldn't that be more likely to be the kind of job that would have kind of one of these revolving door policies where we'll give you a job the rest of the year because you're going to be our lobbyist for us? Isn't that true? And then another question is...
Well, let me answer that one first.
Okay, sure.
Take a breath. In this language, you'll see, you can read it, it requires full transparency of income. Full reporting, which they don't have now. We are amending the Constitution back that they will specifically tell us if they get any other employment outside of their $35,000 pay. So for example, I live up near Traverse City, Munson Hospital, very good senior hospital for cardiac and other things. I already know for a fact that Greg McMaster, state representative now, is running for Howard Walker's Senate seat, has been a lobbyist for the hospital folks. He voted against Medicaid expansion. And they were mad at him because they had donated to his campaign. Because he didn't have full transparency disclosure, none of us really knew unless you went to opensecrets.org and checked his campaign finance report. If they get elected, or elected under this part-time legislature and choose to get paid from the private sector, from Munson Hospital or whatever private sector company business they choose to do their job through, it will be reported on their income statements because we are putting it in the language they have to do that. So there will be full transparency that, yeah, they might be a paid person representing a specific industry, company, or whatever, but the taxpayers aren't paying that $100,000 a year. The private sector is. So there's going to be a shift. But when Jeff Phillips comes in representing, what's your house district down here?
84th.
84th. We're going to fully know that you're getting 35 grand, plus we're going to know who else is paying you. You'll be on the record of knowing exactly who else is paying you. Now, Tristan Cole, my guy who's running for Greg's job in the 105th, he's a farmer. He farms strawberries and apples, Cole's Farms on Eddy Road. And right now, we got still 3 feet of snow up in Entry County. He would be home as of this past Saturday. So when that snow melts, he can go back to doing his strawberries and then his apples in the fall. So you're absolutely right, Jeff. And if you look at other 46 other states, they do that. They got to make a living. They have got to feed their family somehow because $35,000, even though some of us aren't making it right now, I would love to do 35 grand, do my radio station show in the mornings and stuff, and then go down and do it. But we're not micromanaging either. There is language in here. They don't have to do this Monday through Friday. They don't have to do this during the day. They will have the flexibility of maybe doing it, like you were mentioning, at nights or on weekends. We're not limiting that. What we're limiting is 60 consecutive calendar days to be in session. Once that clock starts, they got 60 days to get everything done. If they don't get it done, folks, just so you know this too, it's in the language, they will have to go down the halls with the big push carts, pick up all your papers off your desk and throw them in the garbage can, because next year you gotta start all over again. Anything that they work on this year and they don't get passed, gets scrapped and thrown away, and they gotta start all over. And you had enough, before I go to you, ma'am?
Yes, my other question was, how much does it cost to run an effective campaign for a typical state house or state senate district, and how many constituents do they have? Because the example I had given with New Hampshire, their state constitution prohibits you to have more than 3,300 constituents, which means in a typical campaign season, you can literally walk around the neighborhoods and not talk to everybody, knock on their doors, etc. So a general campaign will only cost you maybe a couple $100 for yard signs, maybe run off some photocopies, and that's about it. Out here, you know, if you have 2 entire counties to try to reach everyone at, it's probably going to cost you quite a bit to run a campaign. And so that's one of the concerns that I have, is that you know, I do support the idea that we should be a part-time legislature, but I would really be a whole lot more thrilled with it if it were combined with shrinking those districts down so that you have a better voice of representation, so that you can get to know your state rep on a more personal level, and so that big money isn't going to get him elected, personal contact will.
You make a great point, and we analyzed those options, because we looked at New Hampshire, we looked at Texas. Texas meets every other year for a month. For a month. Wyoming gets paid a per diem, like the old Farmers' Day, where they give them money to feed the horses to get them into town and money to go back. We looked at all that. And to answer your question specifically, each state rep in Michigan represents 90,000 people. That's 10 million people divided by 110 House districts. So roughly it's 90,000 is the answer to your question. The problem with Michigan is diverse geography, the UP, mileage to Lansing, things like that. And some districts down in Wayne County, those reps down there represent square miles, because they have so many people. I mean, it's crazy with the housing projects, the apartments, and the style of the way they live up instead of out like we do. You know, they don't have 10-acre farms down there. So it's really crazy. We couldn't do that in getting back simply to restoring our Constitution in 1963 without redistricting. And redistricting was a whole nother election law hurdle. So in order to do it this way first is a stepping stone to get to what you're talking about, because I think we will get to that, because quite frankly, on 35 grand a year, they won't want to represent 90,000 people. To answer your question, why do you guys have 5 people running for the 84th House seat? Right now?
There's 6 actually now, and there may be more.
There's at least 3 more that are considering.
For April 22nd filing deadline? Why do you think they're doing that? 100,000 grand a year. Now, we said, guys, hello, if they were here tonight, we are going to do this. By the way, Marlene Elwell is our leader of our signature petition drive for this event. She's never failed. She's worked for Right to Life Michigan. She did the Marriage Protection Amendment in 2004. We are paying her $10,000 a month to run the signature drive to organize all 83 counties. She's never failed. And she says, Randy, I'm 72 years old and I'm not about to be a loser now. So guess what? If those 6 guys were here, or women, were here tonight, and we told them that this was going to go through and they were going to get paid 35 grand a year, how many of you think would walk out of this room and go, I'm out of the race? Of those 6? 2 or 3? How many of you might consider running? You know what I'm saying? Because we don't want professional politicians anymore. We want citizens, regular folk to go. Yeah. What was your career previously, just,
The teacher, and I worked a second job at J.C. Penney's.
okay, but you were a school teacher.
Yes.
Okay? And this is the type of people we want, because now we've dealt with Common Core, and now we've got educational issues that are coming before our state. How many of you heard about the Detroit Public Schools have been taken over the last 5 years? They no longer run their school district down there. They've got to make some major changes. Did you guys know not one student graduated from Detroit Public Schools that was acceptable to college without some type of remediation class? Not one. Sir?
Were there any merit scholars in the system?
Yes.
Okay.
They came from the charter schools.
Well, not the public
Not the
schools?
public. Clark Durant's Cornerstone Schools in Detroit produced some.
That can be true, because I was in the top 15 of my graduating class, and when I went to Delta College, I had to take English and math. And if I was in the top 15, what was the rest of it?
Amen.
I'm sorry.
Yep. But this is why we're here tonight. Did you have any other questions that I can, yes ma'am?
What are some of the drawbacks?
You're going to hear the politicians tell you, and you're also going to hear from the lobbyists, that the governor will become a king. That he will sign by executive order all kinds of new laws, and the legislators are down there keeping a leash on our governor. Representing us, they protect us from this big bad governor that would go like crazy. He'll wear a crown, he'll have a cape, and he'll frolic around the hall of the Capitol building unopposed because they are not there to watch him. That's not true. 46 states right now operate this way, and here's what they found. When the governor is there twiddling his thumbs with nobody to twist arms in the legislature, in the Capitol building, because they're all gone and they're back in district, he then can focus on the bureaucratic departments, like the DNR, the DEQ, the Liquor Control Commission. A lot of these things that should be shut down and defunded, the governor will have nothing else to do but look at his own executive branch of government. And Rick Scott, how many of you know him, the governor of Florida? He went through and completely redid the Department of Education in Florida. He then went in and reformed their welfare system because he can't pass laws. Only our state reps and our senators, because we're a bicameral situation. Some states, like what Jeff is talking about, they have unicameral. They only have one house. They don't have a House and a Senate. They only have one.
New Hampshire has both.
No, I'm saying some states like New Hampshire, other states in the part-time legislature is what I'm saying. Some of them are unicameral, but yes, they do have both.
There's only one that's unicameral.
The other one that you're going to hear from the lobbyists is that we're going to control the legislation. They won't have time to look at the laws, so we'll write them for them, and they'll slam them through, and the lobbyists will basically take over our state. 5 days on the internet. Any bill that's dropped, if it's amended in committee, another 5-day clock starts. If they get to the floor vote and somebody wants to make a voice amendment, you've heard them see where they've amended bills on the floor. Bill comes off the floor, goes back on the internet with those changes for 5 more days. They won't be able to take the lobbyist bills and just put them into the system because they'll be discussed and they won't simply have enough clock time to
So
do
they
it.
won't go in the back room and caucus,
Nope.
and then come back and have one vote changed.
Bingo. Tom Casperson on the Medicaid expansion bill.
Yeah, exactly.
And do you know, that bill was dead because of Senator Colbeck abstaining from voting. It wasn't a tie, 1919, allowing Cali to be the deciding vote. When Senator Colbeck abstained, he's a rocket scientist, by the way. He worked at NASA. It was 1918, they didn't have a tie, so Cali couldn't break the tie. So what did Arlen Meatcoff, senator from Grand Rapids area, do? Motion to reconsider. What that did was said, okay, time out guys, we get to go back and caucus and talk and we get to have a second vote. They twisted arms, they saw what Colbeck did. They switched Senator Casperson from the year 38 from a no to a yes, and that gave us Medicaid expansion 20-18 without Cali even having to break the tie. So that's how we got Medicaid expansion and implementation of Obamacare here in Michigan. Sir?
This is a nuts and bolts question. On this protect the wolf hunting petition drive,
Okay.
how would that be dealt with? The legislature is out of session March 15th. Now we got the petition drive coming in. How will that? They couldn't pass a law. They're not in session.
They're correct. They would be required then, all future changes would have to be signature gathered petitions, and the citizen-led initiative going to the legislators would be probably gone because they are going to be working on the budget first, probably not have enough time to introduce a bill, so it will probably end up seeing more ballot initiatives, actually full-blown signatures obtained, submitted, put it on the ballot, and then let us, we the people, vote on it. So that process will stop.
So that option would be gone. The one they have the two options right now. They can enact it, or they can not do anything and
Put it on the ballot.
automatically.
Right, or they can pass it, like the overrode Governor Snyder's veto on the Medicaid expansion or abortion bill, and they could have done it that way. Tish?
So, just so I'm clear, if that would be the case, where everything would go to a ballot initiative, then we would actually end up with a larger constitution versus bills passed in the legislature?
No, the Constitution doesn't have to necessarily be amended to pass a law in the state of Michigan. If it's passed by the rule of the people, it could be done legislatively, an initiative, which is a law that could be overturned legislatively or by a governor. So it could just be simply that, let me give you a simple example. We want to increase our license plate fees to $200 a car. That could be a law. It could be on the ballot, then the people would vote on it. The majority agree to it, then it becomes a law. But without amending the Constitution, it could be repealed. So unless you're actually changing the Constitution, they can still repeal anything that goes on the
I'm
ballot.
just thinking, the last couple of years we've had ballot initiatives, every single one of them have been a constitutional amendment. Medical marijuana, the
Right.
wind
They
energy, the...
They did that
We're
specifically
all constitutional.
to avoid, no. Right to work,
No, the original one from the unions.
Okay.
Was a constitutional thing.
proposal 2.
Right,
Yeah.
all of those have been constitutional
Correct,
amendments.
because those cannot be repealed by legislative process.
Right,
you
that's
have
what I'm saying, if everything goes to a ballot initiative,
Mhm.
then it all, I mean,
No, it would still be laws. They wouldn't have to necessarily amend the Constitution. If they do amend the Constitution, the signature numbers are higher, number one, and like our numbers, quite a bit higher than the Wolf thing.
right.
Because they're just doing it with a law. We're doing it where we're actually amending the Constitution. It doesn't end up really affecting the other 46 states that do this, Texas, Florida, all these other states that do it. What they find is that they are able to be prioritized. They come to a session already caucused. They've already talked on GoToWebinar or conference calls. They have their agenda. They know specifically what bills they want to accomplish, what they drop. And usually the public, they have support because they heard from us, the people. They've been in district for 300 days and they know what we support and what we don't support. So they know what to do when they hit the ground running. So, sir?
In just a very few words, your part-time legislature, what's the relationship there with term limits?
We left term limits alone. Michigan has now 6 years in the House.
Yeah, no, I mean the relationship if we were to go to this.
There's no change, there's no difference.
How about those 46 states? How many of those have term limits in addition to part-time legislatures?
I don't know the exact number or the name of those states, but the last I heard, I believe it was roughly around 10 or 12. This would make Michigan, here's what the real problem is. We are so regulated in this state, and we have so much unregulation to do, is that by doing term limits and part-time, it'll force the governor to focus on reforming the bureaucratic departments, and it will get these guys to stop passing so many new laws. And then there's a lot of sunset provisional laws that like don't even apply anymore. There's a law in the books right now that if you kill a rat in Detroit and take it in, you get paid $1. Well, I mean, I think it's still probably applicable, but they don't do it anymore. So, ma'am?
Yes, I want to go back to Hillsdale College. What you're saying, right to work, part-time legislature.
Yes.
If they get part-time, if we want to put on there about no state income tax, that would be a ballot issue, and the people would vote on that.
The proposal that I like personally is the fair tax of Michigan. It eliminates business taxes, corporate income taxes, personal income tax, personal property tax, the school millage tax, and goes to a 9% sales consumption tax with a prebate to the poverty level of spending for food and clothing. So it's not regressive for seniors or people who don't make a lot of money. It would have to be a constitutional amendment.
But that, if the part-time legislature, then that fair tax would go to the people.
The fair tax has to go to a ballot initiative and be put on the
Yes.
ballot anyway. The legislator can't do it.
Well-
If they put it on, it could be repealed by another governor or legislature.
But if
So
it's by the people, it can't be repealed.
it's got to be by the people.
I think we should see what Marlene is doing after she gets done with this ballot initiative.
We are going to keep everybody's names and phone numbers, and we'll see you probably next year for that one, but one step at a time. But yes, you're absolutely right. It would have to be by the vote of the people.
Yep.
And the fair tax can only be increased by the vote of the people. So if they spend less money, we get to lower it.
Yep.
But if they need to spend more, we, the people, get to vote on that one.
How are you gonna handle the consumption tax with the computer sales over state lines?
The internet is not part of the Michigan fair tax.
How would you not have it a
The-
part of this, not have it a part of the state?
Internet is considered interstate commerce.
Yes.
Okay, and sales tax is a intrastate, a separate state income tax. So it operates pretty much like how Tennessee, Florida, Texas does now, is basically the model that they would operate in Michigan.
So if you bought over the computer, you'd be, your
It's not taxable now, you
yeah,
wouldn't,
your use tax would be forgiven, so to speak,
it wouldn't be charged.
wouldn't be charged.
Correct. Yes, sir. Lisa?
I have a question. One of the rumors that I heard is the money to fund this effort is coming from other states, not from Michigan.
Oh,
So-
Tom, we have to talk. I had a very vigorous debate with him over that. It's a bald-faced lie. This chair is Norm Camarade. I was originally the chief operating officer. Jim Chiodo from the Ottawa County Tea Party is the treasurer. Michael Carras from the Ottawa County Tea Party is the secretary. This whole effort started with a $20,000 loan from Michael Carras, the secretary. He's a retired engineer, and he loaned the committee $20,000 to get started. If you go to our website, you see this button up here that says donate. We've been taking donations from individuals in the state of Michigan, no outside money from anywhere else in the country. We've got the donate button there. If you go to donate and you click online and you hit this donate button down here, you go to a secure server through VeriSign, and you get to give your donation, and you have to give us your address and all that kind of information. We are required to file MRTS, electronic filing, as to where every single dollar has come from. And there is no outside money. This is started in Michigan by Michigan people. We had one on our Facebook page, one person gave us $10,000 and another gave us $5,000. And it was private individual money, residents that want to see this.
How much can people give?
Well, if you give more than $20, you have to fill out this form as far as what your occupation is and if you're retired or whatever. It's unlimited because it's not a tax deductible donation, so you can give as much as you want. So we have had people, like I said, the one guy gave us $5,000, another guy gave us $10,000. Michael's not going to get paid back his $20,000 until the end, when we get enough donations to pay him back. And if we don't get enough donations, he's going to write off the loan. This is all private money from individuals.
Are there not any other organizations out there that are promoting this at all, or is it just you guys?
No. The committee is formed. Marlene has taken over the signature drive. We've got a lot of Tea Party groups that we're going to be at the powwow trying to fill up those last 28 counties. The Campaign for Liberty folks are going to be coming on board with us after I talk to John Tate on Friday night. John and David Dudenhofer and Tony DeMott are fully behind this. They wanted to try to do it from a legislative attempt to get the legislators to do this for us, to put it on the ballot so we could vote for it, so we wouldn't have to do the signature drive. And Tim Skubik, off the record, you guys know his show?
Oh, yeah.
He did a nose count for us because, I'll try to pull this up real quick, I want you to see this. He had Norma on the show, and Tim Skubik actually liked the idea. He said, I'd have to only spend 2 months reporting on these guys, and I could go on vacation.
He's getting old enough.
Yep.
What do you do the rest of the time? Stir up trouble.
I'll sell him a boat.
He liked the idea, so what he did for us was a nose count. He went in over and talked to the senators, and out of the 38 senators, he could only find 4. And he told that to Randy Richardville, the Senate Majority Leader. There's Norm on Tim's show. Randy Richardville said in Tim Skubik's article on MLive, well, them 4 might be for it right now, but when I get done talking to them, there won't be a snowball chance in hell they'll be supporting this when I get done talking to them. It requires 2/3 in the House, which is 76, and 2/3 in the Senate, which is 26, for them to pass it, to put it on our ballot for us.
Not gonna happen.
Not gonna happen, folks. If we want this done, we the people, filling out those forms, taping them shut at the bottom with a little piece of tape and putting a stamp on it. The address is already there to the war room, and just put it in your mailbox. And help us get these 250 sheets filled out in Tuscola is what needs to happen. Yes, sir.
It seems as though every time we pass a ballot initiative by the people, they find a federal judge to come along and overturn these things as unconstitutional. What's going to stop this?
We had this language reviewed by 5 different ballot initiative attorneys. We ended up deciding on Nat Davis out of Lansing. He's done 7 of these successfully. We also had Cooley Law School, and we also had Hillsdale College Law Department review the language. This fully amends the Constitution back to the way it was prior to 1963. For them to go back to full-time status, this cannot be overturned by a judge, this cannot be overturned by legislative repeal. They would have to get signatures again and amend the Constitution all over again. So I can't, what you just described could not happen because of the way the language is written. Yes, sir.
In the part-time legislature situation, how does the average citizen, will say, is having trouble with a regulatory agency in the state, where normally you'd call your senator or your representative and say, hey, what's going on here? Can you fix this up for me, or can you tell me how to fix it? How will that work?
The dynamic would be basically the same way it is now. One example, State Representative Peter Battalion, the 106, described he had a client that wanted to buy a bar, and he was having problems with the Liquor Control Commission to approve his liquor license transfer. He called him up and said, hey, what are you doing to my guy? What's the problem here? Well, we didn't like the way this was worded, and he didn't fill this form out right. He didn't give us a copy of a check that he paid, a tax lien from 20 years ago, so that's what's holding it up. So he called the constituent and say, okay, you gotta get proof from the IRS that you paid the tax lien, you gotta get a copy of this check, and you gotta refill out this form. It's the exact same process now. The only difference is they'd be doing it from home in district where the constituent is versus being down in Lansing to do it. What do you think the attitude of the state representative is going to be if they've got to drive all the way down to Lansing and go and talk to the liquor control person in face-to-face versus take care of it over the phone out of his own pocket?
And we're going to expect this guy to do this for $35,000 a year to work all year.
He'll have one staff person that can take care of actually probably, the statistics we were told from Florida is that legislative aid takes care of roughly 80 to 85% of the problems. It's only the 10 to 15% that they've actually got to pass it up to the head dude to get him to put pressure on them. But they start to realize a working relationship with these staff people that these senators and reps will have, and they learn the process that there's a new game in town, and this is the way it's got to be. And you don't want Senator Walker driving all the way down from Traverse City to Lansing to take care of a liquor problem. He's not going to be a happy senator when he walks in the door.
Don't make me come down.
Bingo.
Wait till your dad gets home.
Yep. So, was there, I saw another hand, did I see one on this side?
Well, what I was gonna say, on the petition, you make sure you sign it and date it after everybody's got all 10 signatures on it.
Right.
Don't just throw the whole 10 out.
The whole sheet gets thrown in the trash, folks. And real quick, I'm just gonna hold this
And it's
up.
only for one county, so if you
Yep.
collect for just
There's
one
your-
county.
there's your
if you
county
get another
right there.
county, You have to get a new form.
That's the form of the county. So if they live here, you would put Tuscola and you'd write it there. Here they check if it's a city or township, and you write the township or city in there. The next column is their signature. They print their name, street address only, 123 Main Street, and then the zip code, and then not their birthday. This is the day they signed it, and it can be a 2-digit number format. So today would be 032014. You get all 10 of these done, then you as the circulator, this is what's called the circulator affidavit. When you're all done, you make sure you date this after the last date over here. So if today was March 20th and we filled all 10 of these out, we would date this March 20th or tomorrow, March 21st. You sign it, you print your name, the township or city where you're registered to vote, your street address, and your zip code. That's a completed petition sheet. Then all you
An
do,
example on the website of when it's correctly filled out?
yes.
Okay.
Then you just fold it in half, then back and try, and there's the address to mail it to.
And Jean pointed out the post office wouldn't want you to staple it, it jams their machine. You
Correct.
should use tape, it says on it, tape.
It says tape, because also it would damage when they go to open it, it could possibly damage it. Yes, ma'am?
That signatures, they're going to compare that with their voter card.
We are going to get these at 6923 48th Avenue in Hudsonville, Michigan, which is Norm Comrade's office building. He's given us a room about this size with 2 big conference room tables and 6 laptop computers. We've got senior citizens and the Ottawa County Tea Party volunteers. They live right down the street from Norm's office. They're going to go to the post office every day and get these and open them up, and then they're going to take the information off the sheets and put them into the laptops. The laptops will compare them to the voter registration rolls, so we'll make sure that they signed the right county, because that's usually where they get invalidated, is they're registered in, Sanilac, but they're over here tonight, so they signed the Tuscola County sheet. So they're going to run it against the register. If the signatures are bad, we're going to take a line and pen it right through. So we're going to know that we have an active real count before we even go to the Secretary of State. So a lot of volunteers across the state of Michigan are helping us, just like you folks here tonight. They're helping out in what we're calling the war room. So, yes, ma'am.
Now, are other counties going to have the same one?
Yes, 50,000 sheets have been printed, and your county got 250 sheets, my county got 130 sheets, Wayne County got 6,000 sheets, Macomb got 3,000. Yeah, so we've got it all broken down based on population and based on how many signatures are needed for each county, and they've all been shipped out, all 55. We're down to our last 28, plus then what we do at the powwow on Saturday is hopefully get the rest of them. So that map you saw before will be all green, hopefully by Sunday.
But will you make extras so that in case somebody signed it wrong or dated it wrong or they had to throw it out?
Your target number is higher than it needs to be.
Way higher. We printed 500,000 sheets. Our goal is 400,000 signatures. 10% of those are going to be bad, which will be 40,000. So that's where you saw the 360. We actually have to get 322,817 real good signatures. So we've already allowed for mistakes, and by the way, if you make a mistake, like say they do put their birth date there instead of the date they're signing, just draw a line through it and let them go to the next line. Yeah, that's no